And right now on the line, Fox News legal analyst, former federal prosecutor, author of a fiction book, by the way, called A Matter of Trust, our good friend Lis Wiehl. How are you, Lis?
Good morning. I'm doing great, guys.
All right, so the verdict came down Saturday night. Were you surprised at how quickly the jury returned that verdict?
It was fairly quick. I mean, I'll just give you a little backstory. I had just finished a live show with Huckabee that ended at 9, and I thought, I'll just go home. And then I thought, no, I'll stick around till 11. Fox was bringing in some dinner and stuff like that. I'll just stick around till 11. And then sure enough, boom, there was a verdict 16 and a half hours after they'd started deliberating, which is a fair amount of time, actually, for even a serious case that this was. So I don't think it was fast. I think they deliberated. I think their question on Friday was apropos, which was, I want an inventory list. We want an inventory list of all the evidence. Why they didn't have one going in, I don't know. But I think these 6 women took their time and, in my estimation, really came to the only legal conclusion they could.
So how fortuitous that the draw of free food at Fox kept you around.
I'm a cheap date. I mean, what can I say?
but duly noted, Lis Wiehl.
But let's talk more seriously about that. Yeah. Look, there's a lot of talk that indeed the Justice Department might come after George Zimmerman on a civil rights case. Do you think that would be an appropriate thing for the Justice Department to do in this case?
I think they can look at it, but I don't think the outcome would be any different, okay? There are two ways the Justice Department, and I used to be, as you said, federal prosecutor, a 1983 action. Under a 1983 action, you have to show color of law, that the person that was, that did the crime, let's say, was acting under color of law. Well, Zimmerman, I don't think you can make a neighborhood watch guy under color of law. He's not deputized in any sense of the way. So that's out. The second way would be a hate crime, to show that the reason that Zimmerman killed Martin was purely, simply hatred, racial bias. They didn't show that the first time around. They really didn't.
And in fact, the FBI has apparently looked into that matter, and there's a whole series of documents that are outlined in a McClatchy newspaper story,
right,
which suggests that they came to the conclusion that there was no racial animus.
Exactly. And it might have even been the other way around.
Yeah.
I mean, so I just don't, I guess they should look at it, and maybe they should take it to a grand jury, and maybe this first prosecutor should have done, take it to a grand jury. I mean, a grand jury is a great fig leaf in some ways for a prosecutor, because they can say, hey, no true bill, and then the prosecutor is off the hook saying, hey, brought us to the grand jury, they said no true bill, no indictment, then, the prosecutor's off the hook. But personally, I would say give it a rest. I mean, it's over. There'll be other lawsuits. There'll be civil lawsuits, I'm sure, but I don't think the feds need to get involved in this. I really don't.
Lis Wiehl, obviously George Zimmerman is clear of any criminal wrongdoing here in terms of the state of Florida, of course, and we're discussing the potential federal case against him. But can we get back to just one basic fact in the story that still seems to be a sticking point with many people who are upset over the Zimmerman acquittal, and that is the idea that George Zimmerman, at a certain point that evening, pursued Trayvon Martin under his guise as neighborhood watch.
Yes.
Is there anything inherently wrong in that, and what should Trayvon Martin have done in that case? Was he within his rights to go back and ask this guy, hey, why are you following me, and take matters into his own hands?
Well, yes and yes. Let's break it down a little bit. The judge actually gave an instruction to the jurors that following someone is not illegal. So, in other words, the first part of your question, Zimmerman following Martin was not illegal. He had the right to do that, and the jury was told that explicitly in the jury instructions. Now, Martin then, at that point, seeing Zimmerman, we'll never know what happened that night. Did Martin then turn around and go after Zimmerman? Who escalated what when? But the point is, I guess, from a legal standpoint, is that at that horrible moment when the gun went off, it was pretty well established that Zimmerman's story was at least more plausible than Martin's, and that was that Zimmerman was on the ground, his head getting beaten in by Martin at the time when Zimmerman pulled out the gun and shot.
Yeah.
At that point, it's self-defense. Because if you think you're in danger of imminent harm, and, he had lacerations on his head and his nose, then you have the right under Florida law to use deadly force. So you had a very weak prosecution case butted against a very strong Florida self-defense law.
I was not all that impressed with the performances of the prosecuting attorneys after the verdict when they held that press conference. Did you see that?
Of course, I was. Yeah, it was on with Geraldo till 1 o'clock.
What did
in the morning,
you think about that?
A prosecutor is supposed to be above the fray, not to kowtow to politics, not to kowtow to the media, the public. A prosecutor, I loved being a prosecutor. The job is just about seeking justice, nothing else. Justice is blind. So I don't think I probably would have done any kind of press conference. I would have said we respect the jury's verdict, and thank you to my team here, and that's it. That's just me, though.
Yeah. And, Lis Wiehl, let me ask you one other question about the conduct of the prosecutors. Angela Correa, the Florida prosecutor who brought these charges in, she said in her press conference that George Zimmerman was still guilty of profiling Trayvon Martin. It seems like profile is being used in shorthand here. People think that right. But it's okay to profile someone based on what they're wearing, based on their behavior, based on certain things. I mean, if a white guy,
we profile people every day in our everyday lives, and it's not.
And so do the police, by the way.
Exactly. If I have an intern, for example, I have interns at Fox, and they, from law school, New York Law School primarily, and they'll come in. If they're wearing a tattered T-shirt and shorts for an interview with me, they're not getting the job.
You profiled them.
They might be the smartest person on the planet. They're not getting the job because that first impression, wait a second, you're not taking this seriously enough. Same with jurors coming into a courtroom. If they come in, potential jurors, and they're just, wearing, anybody can go to Sears and buy a nice shirt and a pair of pants, right? Or a dress. You can buy for $20, $19.99. You can buy a dress. So you come into court. If you're not at least doing that, you're not on my jury because you're not taking it seriously.
All right, Lis Wiehl, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah. I know you've been doing such great work down there, and it's been so great to have you as a resource during this entire